Mr. Secretary, you started at the beginning describing President Putin as your uncontrollable neighbor. You kind of brought over and showed your gun case to. I know part of what the administration has done has tried to make it tougher for Russia to be able to sell its oil. It cracked down pretty tough on India, which is importing a lot of Russian oil, but not so much when it comes to China. Is China in the wrong for importing so much Russian oil as well? I think they import just as much as India does.
Oh, well, let's go back and look at the history, though, Becky. And look, China importing it is suboptimal. But if you go back and look pre-22, pre-invasion, 13% of China's oil was already coming from Russia. Now it's 16. So China has a diversified input of their oil. If you go back and look now, I believe India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42. So
wow.
India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits, some of the richest families in India. So this is a completely different thing. Like this India, what I would call the Indian arbitrage, buying cheap Russian oil, reselling it as product, has just sprung up during the war, which is unacceptable.
Mr. Secretary, just to touch on another topic that I think we have talked about, at least I think maybe we talked about with actually the president, but I'm curious where you land and just how it would be effectuated, this idea of using some of the tariff money to effectively create a dividend for American citizens. A, are you an advocate for that relative to using that money to pay down the debt? And B, if you are, how would it work in practice?
So, Andrew, I think President Trump has talked about that, but he and I haven't. And I think at a point we're going to be able to do it. As you would have seen, U.S. ratings were affirmed last night because of the tariff income, but President Trump and I are laser focused on paying down the debt. So I'd been saying that tariff revenue could be $300 billion this year. I'm going to have to revise that up substantially. So I think that we're going to bring down the deficit to GDP. We'll start paying down debt. And then at a point that can be used as an offset to the American people.
You said you might have to revise it up. How high?
I'm not prepared to give you the number now, but it could be substantial.
I know you have an 8 a.m. I was going to ask you. I can't help myself. I asked you about inflation. We had someone on the other day that looked at the revised employment numbers and said you could almost make the case that there might have been a lull, but it's starting to turn back up. Is that what we want, or does that make it harder for the Fed to cut? What do we? I guess we want full employment with low inflation so that the Fed can cut. I can answer for you, I guess.
Well, that's a good answer, Joe. So I think we can go back to. I think that we could either go back to the 90s where we had good low inflationary growth, or back to President Trump's first term. But I think the real problem here is we're seeing some distributional aspects to the higher rates, as your earlier guest said, especially in housing and in for lower income households with high credit card debt. So we're seeing this big CapEx boom. Part of it's AI, part of it's the tax bill. And so CapEx is doing well, but households, home building is struggling. And you were asking me about interviewing Fed candidates, and there's the ability. Everyone has the ability to look at the current data, but let's just think about if we keep constraining home building, then what kind of inflation does that create 1 or 2 years out? So a cut here could facilitate a boom or a pickup in home building, which will keep prices down 1-2 years down the road.